The Lord be with you. Our reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Luke. When the days drew near for Jesus to be received up, he set his face to go to Jerusalem. And he sent messengers ahead of him, who went and entered a village of the Samaritans to make ready for him. But the people would not receive him, because his face was set toward Jerusalem. And when his disciples, James and John, saw it, they said, "Lord, do you want us to bid fire come down from heaven and consume them?" But Jesus turned and rebuked them, and they went on to another village. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise you, Lord Jesus Christ.
We are reminded not to judge the people, because judging people belongs to God. Dear friends, just one insight from the Gospel passage today. In Luke's Gospel, often we find the expression, Jesus was on his way towards Jerusalem. That is a reminder of the passion and the death on the cross of Jesus. So in today's passage also it is mentioned that Jesus is going towards Jerusalem along with his disciples, and they enter a village of Samaritans, and they are not ready to receive them, because Jesus and his companions all are Jews, and they are going to Jerusalem for worship. But the Samaritans believe the real worship is not in Jerusalem but in Samaria. And there's a bit of a historical background to this. In the year 722 BC, Assyrians invaded Israelites and defeated them and took large portion of people to Assyria as captives. But there were some people, sections of people were remaining back in Israel, and those people went to Assyria. They got married with them, and the people left behind, they thought that particular race is impure, whereas we are the pure race and we have not been contaminated by other races. So there is about an enmity of 800 years at the time of Jesus between the Jews and the Samaritans, and that is why the Samaritans had nothing to do with the Jews and vice versa. In John's Gospel chapter 4, we find a Samaritan woman asking Jesus for water, and the Samaritan woman is surprised. "You are a Jew asking me for water?" and so on. So these Samaritans did not accept Jesus and his disciples. It's quite obvious. But James and John, they got so much worked up, and they said, "Shall we bring fire from heaven to consume them, to destroy them?" But Jesus turned and rebuked them. See, immediately they get into action of judging them and punishing them, but Jesus rebukes them. Because the purpose of Jesus coming into the world is not to condemn the world, but to give love and to give salvation. That's what we find in John's Gospel. "I have not come to condemn the world, but to redeem them." So, oftentimes we act on our prejudices without thinking, and we are moved by our impulses and so on. How often in our own day-to-day lives also the prejudices influence our judging others. The moment we look at the person, we have our own idea, and especially the past experience of that person or the stories that we have heard from that person always influence us in judging others. But Jesus makes it clear, don't judge others, because judging belongs to God. And why is it so? Any judgment, for it to be genuine and impartial, one should know the full context of the situation and the full knowledge of the persons involved. And how can we ever know the full knowledge of the context and the full knowledge of the persons involved? Only God can have the full knowledge of the context and the persons, therefore only His judgment will be impartial. All our judgments will be partial, because our knowledge of the situation is partial and the knowledge of the people also is partial. And when we do not know about ourselves fully, how can we claim that I know others fully? That's why judgment must be always, should be very careful. Even in the court of law, there's always a room for further appeal. When a court pronounces a judgment, there's always an opportunity for further appeal precisely because the judge knows I have given this judgment based on the evidence available. But if the new evidence comes, judgments can be rewritten, the judgment can be improved. Therefore, there is always a provision for the judgment to go for higher appeal. And Jesus makes it clear, don't judge others, you can leave it to God to judge others, whether they're right or not. But humans as we are, we always tend to go by our prejudices and past experiences, and we make immediate judgment. In the context of ours, we are a good advocate. We are good lawyers to argue for us. But in the case of others, we become immediately the judge to pass the judgment immediately. And most often, it is impartial because our knowledge of the context and knowledge of the situation, knowledge of the people are always impartial, always limited. Therefore, let's ask for the grace that we may go beyond all these prejudices and past experiences and see people in a new way and ask for God's grace and wisdom that we may not be easily judging others in our day-to-day lives. Let us think about it today.